The evolution of journalism is just so interesting. When you think back all the way to 59 BC, when Julius Caesar demanded that these carvings be written throughout his neighborhood and his community, and they just told about different things that was going on with the government. And then newspapers became a thing, and that's exactly what newspapers was for, to tell what was going on in the world and with the government. And then radio became a thing. And I just think radio is so interesting because there are these little boxes where you can hear someone, but you can't see anybody, so you're forced to use your imagination to paint that picture. And then television became a thing. You can actually see the reporter at that point. And following television came the internet. And the internet, I remember being young, it was just so slow. And let's look how far it has come. You could post something now, you could see it in seconds. And now social media has come to the forefront. And I think in this video, that's what I want to talk about. The evolution of journalism, where it was back then, where it is now, and where it's going.
My phone is dead, now I can't find a news story.
Your phone is dead. Oh my gosh, you kids are electronics. You know, back in the day, they didn't have phones to find news stories.
So where'd you guys go to find your news stories?
Let's go to the studio, I'll tell you all about it.
Okay.
So newspapers actually date back to 59 BC. Did you know that?
No.
You ever heard of a guy named Julius Caesar?
I don't think so.
Well, he created what was called the Roman Acta Diurna. And basically, he demanded they be posted throughout all the cities. And they basically just tell what was going on with the government. So it would tell about different executions, different military campaigns. It was very similar to newspapers today. Now, if you think about newspapers as far as being printed, you go back to 1477, and a guy named Johannes Gutenberg created what was called the movable printing press.
What's the movable printing press?
The machine would allow you to use little blocks and arrange them in the order you wanted them to be in, and it will allow you to print. He would take what is called an ink ball, and he would use two to help speed up the process. He would roll one in the ink, and then he would roll them together evenly. He would then apply the ink balls to the top of the letters that he would use to print onto the paper.
When were newspapers created here in America?
Newspapers were created here in America in the 1800s. What's interesting is that they were for the rich and the high class. They were about 6 cents. It wasn't until the penny press was created that newspapers were affordable for the middle class, and what they called the working class. Can you guess how much they cost?
A penny?
Exactly, a penny. The penny press was created by a man named Benjamin Day. The penny press was so special because at the time, most newspapers were selling for about 6 cents. This allowed Day in the end to make more money because the paper was so affordable. So another fun fact, he created what are called paper boys. Ever heard of paper boys?
Yeah. Actually, at the age of 8, I wanted to be a paper boy.
What do you know about paper boys?
Well, paper boys, they go from house to house, block by block on a bicycle with newspapers just delivering them.
They would sell the papers on the corners, making the paper more accessible to people. Eventually, other newspapers began to emerge. Some you may actually know about, like the New York Herald and New York Tribune. James Gordon Bennett later created the New York Herald. He upped his price from 1 cent to 2 cents. This paper is said to be one of the first nationally recognized newspapers. Eventually, Horace Greeley created the New York Tribune, and Henry Raymond followed with the New York Times, which is still one of the largest printing publications to date. Later, bigger newspapers followed suit. A lot of the early newspapers were so popular because they shared important details about the government and different government officials. And of course, they didn't like this because it shed light on all the flaky things that they were doing. But this led to what is called the freedom of the press. Do you know what libel means?
No.
It's defined as a published false statement that could ruin someone's reputation.
It's the reason that freedom of the press is in the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution, because it's something that's very integral to a U.S. democracy. A lot of people do have secrets they don't want exposed, and if you don't have reporters who have access to them, and your leaders aren't required to talk to reporters, and they're able to kind of just send out their own press releases, don't take any tough questions, criticize anybody, or even kill people if they're being critical of your administration or your policies or whatever it is you're doing. It's good that we're not silenced, although the Trump administration is currently targeting the news media at large, calling it fake news, the fake news media. That's not very helpful, and we've seen in a bunch of incidents around the world that other leaders are using the same line. They're targeting reporters over there, sometimes doing very brutal things, sometimes fatal things, trying to silence people from shining lights on issues that they don't want exposed, that they don't want their people to know about.
A second form of print journalism are magazines, which is my personal favorite. When you think of a magazine that actually had words, sketches, and illustrations, you can think of a man named Herbert Ingram. He created what was called Illustrated London News 1842.
So when did magazines begin here in America?
The first magazines that were actually known here in America actually failed. Now today we have house name magazines. Print journalism has come a long way. Radio became a thing in the 20th century, meaning the 1900s. So between the years of 1920s to 1945, it was all about the airwaves and broadcast radio. What made radio so unique when it became the first electronic mass media is the idea that you can only hear the reporter, or the journalist, or a DJ. You was forced to use your imagination to fill in the mental images of what you're hearing.
Radio as a means of communication, you are forced to use your voice to add effects and engage with a listener, and you're using a different piece of their senses than they're used to using. They're not relying on their sight. They're not relying on words that capture imagery. It's all on you. It's all on the power of your voice, all on how much inflection you use, all on how much personality you have. And I think that is a certain talent that is one transferable, but it really allows people to connect with you on a greater basis.
Do you ever think, who are the geniuses behind the creation of something so unique and perplexed like radio? I think it is safe to start with the German physicist Henry Hertz. He was the first person to prove that you could transmit and receive electronic waves wirelessly. Because his work was recognized as the fundamental building block of radio, every frequency measurement was eventually named after him. That's why you hear the word Hertz. Nikola Tesla was a Serbian inventor, and he's most known for creating a system of alternating current dynamos, transformers, and motors. He created what is called the Tesla coil, and it is said to be an induction coil that is widely used in radio. Our next inventor really opened doors in the world of radio as we know it today. Born in Sweden, Ernest Alexander developed the alternator to make transmission of speech possible. With a hold of 34 patents, he's responsible for everything General Electric did in the field of AM, FM, and TV. When we think of being able to combine sound and radio carrier waves, we can thank Ruteno Faceden. In 1906, he used Alexander's alternator to make the first long-range transmission of voice. Radio really began as small experiments, mostly practiced by men and boys. Not many people had access to a radio. The World War I played a unique role in the area of radio. In the early 1900s, the federal government forced most radio transmitters off the air for the rest of World War I. Following World War I, many universities and amateur operations began revamping and developing radio stations, allowing the medium to grow as a whole. And by 1922, there were about 550 news stations across the country. Following radio came television. And when most people think about big television news stations, they think about like CBS, CNN, and NBC. But what most people don't know is that NBC and CBS both started out as radio networks. I think it's important to understand the transition between radio and television. At the time, World War II was happening, and a man named Edward Murrow made history by using radio as a means of communicating information from London to America. He even covered stories on the Holocaust.
There surged around me an evil-smelling horde. Men and boys reached out to touch me. They were in rags and the remnants of uniforms. Death had already marked many of them, but they were smiling with their eyes.
While most people looked at the radio as an entertainment pastime, Murrow introduced the idea of news being presented with a voice many thought was very talented and preferred at the time. With big events such as Kennedy's assassination, television became a form of journalism for people to see what was happening firsthand. Kennedy's assassination is said to be one of the first events that took place where television played a big role in getting information and visuals to the people. Over the years, television became one of the biggest ways for people to catch the news and to catch up on big events. Broken into different segments, you had weather, local and national news, and sports. Cable networks like CNN and MSNBC have all added another level to the idea of television news. Most cities have their own local news station where they kind of talk about what's going on in their city and in their neighborhoods.
We are local and others are national, and they cover a broader scale, whereas a local journalist, I cover just Chattanooga, parts of Atlanta, and sometimes parts of Birmingham. But being able to generally focus on one area is important because I'll be able to give information to the people that need it most right here at home.
Journalism through the internet became a thing in the 1990s. I remember I had what was called AOL, and it was super slow. But what's interesting is that the first form of journalism online came through AOL. In May of 1992, the Chicago Tribune, which is a newspaper, was distributed through AOL. And in 1966, big names joined together to start distributing news via the internet. ABC Television, the New York Times, the Boston Globe, Los Angeles Times, and Times Mirror all joined online news. And in the same year, NBC and Microsoft created a cable internet television called MSNBC. What's so special about the internet in comparison to radio and television news is that news stations are able to post things in real time.
The internet has pretty much merged all the different forms of media. When you look at traditional newspapers, they all have websites. They're all online now. They're all available there. Some have apps to share their content. With people, cutting cable, a lot of people don't have access to as much news as far as on the TV as they ordinarily would or as they did in the past. But news stations also have websites. They're publishing their content there. They have news alerts. Some of them have apps. Same thing with radio. People may not be listening to the radio as much since people can hop into a car and plug in an aux cord and blast some music or listen to the radio. As far as news, a lot of them have all kind of come online. So I wouldn't say that an online digital-first website is much different from CNN's website or the New York Times website, a broadcast station or a broadcast network, and a newspaper. When you look at them objectively, they're essentially all the same. They put a lot of resources into making sure that people come to their site and people stay on their site and they're able to find the news they're looking for. They're all active on social media. Some people may prefer to see news. They like the fact that they can actually see the video of things they may have read about earlier in a newspaper or online. Some people like being able to hear, listen to a podcast, listen to an NPR station, actually hear what the story is. But you can also do those things with the other website, with the newspaper that's online. You can see videos that are posted or tweeted or whatever it is. You can sometimes hear people. You can listen to podcasts online as well as on your phone. So I wouldn't really say that they're different because they've all gone to the same place. A lot of them are all online. They're very accessible. So even if you don't listen to them where you would traditionally, you still have access to them. They're still running a lot of the same stories. They're still talking to the same people, trying to get the same things out there.
In order to save themselves, many newspapers evolved to online publications and no longer release newspapers anymore. With the revamp and continuous development of RSS, which stands for Really Simple Syndication Systems, reporter blogs, videos, and podcasts all became part of the internet and the journalism culture. And by 2008, social media began to emerge, and many online media sources created Facebooks and Twitters. Now, today, all of the news mediums work together. Most news outlets that may have a station also have an online site and an app. While every news outlet may not air on television, they may have some type of visual online where they include a written story and what is called a news package. This is where the term multimedia journalist stems from. A reporter has to be able to be multifaceted. They have to research the story, shoot and film, write the story, and be able to tweet and create social media posts for both the company's online, social media, and television news station. So now you see just how far journalism has come. A phone being there wouldn't be an issue back in the day when trying to get the news stories. People just read the newspaper, listen to the radio, or watch TV.
I can't wait to see what journalism goes after the internet and social media. I wonder what cool new ways people will be able to find news stories.
In the future, where do I see broadcasting? I don't see it in paper or print. I see it all digitally. We're a generation now of we want things right now, and if we can't get it right now, we'll find someone else that can. And I definitely think that the way of the world and how things are turning, it's different. I don't think real journalists, real MMJs, I don't think that's going to be a thing for much longer. I think, it's a new age. We'll see where it takes us, but I don't think print and I don't think newspapers will be along for too long. So if you have some, save some, because you never know when that might be your last.